Who were the cavemen? This is something that's very interesting to a lot of people. And they look at evidence that is portrayed to us in the media about cavemen or Neanderthal, and it makes them doubt the accounts that we have in the Bible. But in a deeper look, and by starting with the most reliable source, which should be the authority of everyone when it comes to the history of human beings, we should always go to the history given to us from our Creator, and that is the Holy Bible. Right here in Genesis 5, 1 through 3. This is the written account of Adam's family line. When God created mankind, he made them in the likeness of God. He created them male and female and blessed them, and he named them mankind when they were created. When Adam had lived 130 years, he had a son in his own likeness, in his own image, and he named him Seth. From the beginning, man was made, the human race, what we call Homo sapiens. Now, what they call a Neanderthal, they actually try to make it sound like it's a different kind of species, but only because they want to fit this image with their interpretation of history as being evolution and us coming from apes. But the truth is, the Neanderthal is just a human. As a matter of fact, a more advanced human than we are, had a bigger skull and also stronger bones, more muscle. So truth is, we're not evolving and becoming better. We're actually doing the opposite. Every generation has more and more mutations. More and more diseases are accumulating through every family line and every generation that comes about. So there is no evolution going on. It's actually the opposite, a devolution. So how do we explain why when we look into the record of our fossils, we see things like primitive tools and we see people living in caves? Well, it's simple. We just simply go back to the Bible, because this should be our authority and our source of where we're getting our information about the past of humans. But because the secular science throw away this information and don't even consider it, they never come with any kind of interpretation that the Bible simply and plainly explains. So when we look and we see people living in caves, we could wonder, why is this? And then we look into the Bible and we see one of the biggest events to ever happen was the Genesis flood, the flood of Noah's day. When the earth was flooded, Noah and his family were saved. It was only 8 people in this ark. Getting off of this ark, remember, the whole world was just flooded. The civilization that was there before is no longer there. So what would have to be done? Well, new families are going to be branching out, and guess what they have to do? They have to start from scratch. There's going to be times where they are looking for shelter. There's going to be new buildings. There's going to be having to start from scratch with making tools and all types of things. So after the flood, there was already a period of rebuilding society. And then also we have another huge event, and this was the Tower of Babel, when there was a huge event that God caused with the dispersing of different languages. And this also caused people to move out and spread out through the earth and have to rebuild and have to survive off the land, working and making new tools and having to live in a society that isn't as controlled as what they are used to. So this would cause people to take to the caves to make new tools and to survive just like anybody else would in these days. If our cities were all destroyed and people were spread out, it would look to somebody in the future like there were a bunch of cavemen walking around, or primitive people. But in fact, these were just people that were rebuilding a society, not building it from the first time. A few of the assumptions that the seculars love to press on people, and they try to make it seem like these Neanderthals were, some kind of half ape, half man. So what they will do is when they draw these portraits of these Neanderthals, which of course they didn't really see, it's a lot of speculation and this is artistry work, but what they do is they'll draw a lot of hair on them. When they put all this hair, they make it seem like, oh, okay, that makes sense, they were coming from apes. But truth is, through science today, we can actually look and see the type of genes they had to even see how much hair they would really have. And to be truthful, the honest science can tell you that, the Neanderthals were not any more hairy than people are today. Did the Neanderthals have more hair than humans? No. They weren't more or less hairy. There were some differences in terms of their skeletons, prominent brow ridges and protruding noses or whatnot, but they may not have been that different from us in reality. This is the reality of it. And guess what? The brow ridges and the nose, these are things that continue to grow the longer you live. So what does that tell us about these Neanderthals? They were just regular humans that lived longer. When you live longer, these things grow. These are the things that never stop growing on us. Bigger brains, stronger bones, living longer. It sounds a lot like the biblical account we've been given. When we look in the Bible, when we look at the age differences, people lived a lot longer in the past because the earth was a lot different in the past before the flood. Another thing that they try to portray to the public is that, since these Neanderthals came from a certain type of ape, and then Africans came from a certain type of ape, Africans won't have any Neanderthal DNA in them. And this is what they really wanted to believe because it fit with their theory. But the more searching they've done, the more research they've done, they found that this isn't true either. What a surprise. People of European and African ancestry have got more Neanderthal DNA in their genomes than previously thought. They want to keep it nice and simple. I don't want to tell you too much, but the truth is they found out that people in Africa and Europe still have Neanderthal DNA in them, something that wasn't expected. This wasn't one of their predictions from their model. Their evolution model would say that there wouldn't be any kind of Neanderthal DNA in Africans, but they are finding it. So this just goes more with the biblical story that we all come from the same two people, and we all come from Neanderthals, because Neanderthals were simply post-flood human beings who actually had bigger brains, more strength, and lived longer lives than us. So next time you hear someone talking about a caveman, just put it into your mind that these weren't cavemen, these weren't ape men. These are just regular people that were coming from a devastating flood and trying to rebuild society. Something to think about.